This is Alex Geairns for AVTV at AV4. We've just had the forum where we've had various celebrity guests being quizzed by the audience and various opinions coming across. I'm here with Andy Thomas, who was helping to referee the melee between the celebrity speakers and the audience. How was the experience for you?
How was it for me? Actually, pretty much this forum managed itself. There's some forums you really have to kind of like hold it together and don't let it get too hot under the collar. But actually, everybody was very well behaved, lots of sensible stuff, and I thought very valuable. A lot of valuable insights and conversation, and everybody I thought really contributed, not only the questioners but also the panel, exactly as one would want on a forum. So I was very pleased personally.
I was intrigued by the balance of questioning. I was expecting a lot more sort of, hard conspiracy stuff sort of being questioned, etc. and various bits and pieces. But there was a lot of the spiritual element in there. Now, do you think that was mainly because of who we had as the speakers on the panel there, or was that a reflection of the audience that we've actually got here this weekend?
I think it was partly led by the panel, and I thought that was actually quite good that came in, because up until the forum it had been pretty much hard facts down to the sort of geopolitics, the whole global agenda, and it needed to just go to that dimension that offered a little bit more hope, and we'd had a lot of stuff about solar flares and causing havoc, and I thought it was good to remind people that there is attached to all this stuff about change, this idea of new consciousness. And that shouldn't just be said glibly. And so because we had, like Manjir, for instance, she's got not only the new physics angle on it, but she's got a whole look at the universe as a living, breathing entity. So that really came over. And that was picked up on also by Peter, who, of course, yes, he is a climate scientist, but he is also a shamanic figure and has a crossover into that world, which on one level is an event like this a plus. In his other world, it's a minus, but he's just being what he is, and that led to a much deeper discussion than we might otherwise have had, I thought.
Do you think there was any particular topics that perhaps should have come out from the audience? Was there anything that was particularly missing, do you think? Or you mentioned the spread there, but it was one of those strange things where it seemed to go off in some really bizarre directions during the session.
I've found you can never lead a forum. If you go into a forum thinking, right, we're going to make it this or that, it will never go that way. You have to let it breathe in whatever way it chooses to go. That's where it went today, and I was quite happy with that. Also, because I think we didn't have all of the speakers from the earlier part of the weekend, obviously, had we had some of them there, for instance, had Scott Tipps been in there, we would have had more questions about codex and all of that. That didn't happen because I think it was clear that was not the panel that we had, but it was fine. I felt that everything was covered really in terms of putting a broader meaning to the whole weekend, and that happened at the right time for the Sunday afternoon. That was just right, I thought.
Now, I know that you actually do your own presentations to a whole variety of audience.
Indeed.
Some of them not as amenable, would I say, to the suggestion of some of the material that you put out there. So, I mean, what sort of audiences do you play, and how does it vary from an alternative view audience?
One of the interesting things that I find is that even when you're talking to like Rotarians or even the Women's Institute, or I often do like businessmen's lunches, these are serious people, these are corporate people, they're people, they know the world, they're pretty kind of hardline about their views, but when you start talking about all this global agenda type stuff and you talk about 9/11 and things like this, what I'm amazed about is often how many of them actually already think like we do, but they don't have a context where they feel that they can voice it. So when they see somebody like me then standing up and then beginning to talk about all this kind of thing, they then feel more able to share their views, and I'm continually surprised by how many people out there do actually know that they're being lied to. They know there's a whole other side to the world. When they hear somebody else voice it, they go, oh, well, actually, now I think about it, I've always thought that. And things like 9/11, where you would think some, let's not put this rudely, but mainstream people might really object to you saying, potentially, it was an inside job. I think I've only ever been seriously challenged once, and even then somebody else in the audience told her to shut up.
Right.
And beyond that, I'm amazed at how many people do just nod and go, What I find is if you present something rationally and with facts and you're not hot-headed, people will listen. And I think that's the lesson that we've learnt well here at Alternative View, because I think most speakers now present, from that point of view.
Yeah.
They're not coming out with a load of sensationalist stuff. If they do, they probably won't be back. And that's what I like. There's a good pool of speakers who know their stuff.
Yep.
We had, I thought, a lot of speakers like that this weekend. It really came across. That's the gift of Alternative View, is that it's covering, what could be seen as wacky fringe. It doesn't actually work out like that at all, because it's coming from people that know their facts and their figures, and they know how to present it sensibly. And in my experience, people on the outside will listen when they have it delivered like that.
Now, that's intriguing, because I found, talking to people across the weekend, one of their biggest anxieties and one of the things that really frustrates them is that even if you get a chance to talk to people, they will immediately shut down when they see you going in a particular direction. It's almost like denying that there is any problem, or not wanting to actually engage in the debate or even look at the evidence. It's a question of how do you actually talk people round on this stuff? Is it only from them approaching you, or is there anything you can do to just sow the seeds?
Well, one thing I would say is you never try to talk anybody round. I think that's the secret. If people feel like you're selling them a viewpoint they must subscribe to, that's when the resistance comes in.
Right.
And because over the years, I've talked about UFOs, crop circles, more overtly fringe stuff, and I've learned that if you try to force a view on them, that they really will resist. I've learned over the years that you don't do that. You just say, here's why I believe this. Here's why I'm interested. You don't have to share that belief, but here's some facts and figures. Now, I find if you deliver like that, even just in personal conversation, people will open up more quickly when they feel that you want them to believe your point of view. That's when the resistance comes in. And I'm always encouraged that, there are exceptions to this, but the majority of people, I think, will open up at least enough to say, well, I hadn't thought of it like that. And if they even say that, you've broken through a little barrier there. There's a lot of hope. I'm really optimistic. And I know we worry that we're just a tiny percentage of the population thinking like this. You'd be surprised. And just taking England, I think a lot of the change that is going to come in the next 2 or 3 years is going to come from Middle England. It's not just going to come from the grassroots fringe groups. It's going to come from the normal people who know in here something's not right. And already stuff like Alternative View, it's coming into its own because people are looking for context. They're now more open to it. They know they've been lied to over Iraq, over MPs' expenses, So, hey, what else might they have been lied to? And it's amazing what people are open to. It really is. And now, when you do the thing where you show them moon landing pictures and you say, have you ever looked at the anomalies in the moon landing pictures? Now, 10 years ago you'd have been laughed out of the room. Now it's amazing how many people go, I never believed in those. It's quite shocking how many people doubt now what they are told in official channels, which offers hope. And it offers things like Alternative View the chance to say, well, if you're interested in that, have a look at this. And that's why we're now on AV4. The numbers are not going down. They seem to be going up. And we're consistently now filling halls. That's because the time has come for this kind of material.
And bringing more people and new people into
people. And I'm really pleased to see, this weekend, there's a good turnover of new people. It's not just the old diehards. People are thinking, I'm hearing about this. Here's an event. Let's go and see what they've got to say. And I think most people will go away from this feeling encouraged that there is some substance to what we're all talking about.
Indeed. So there you go. Hope indeed on the horizon. This is Alex Geairns for AVTV at AV4 with Andy Thomas.